Hello, folks. This is Don Chioffi, and this is another edition of Straight Talk with Don Chioffi, and that's who I am. And today, I'm privileged and proud to have not only a good friend, but a very loyal Rutland Town public servant that I've known for a long time, Jim Hall, here with me to talk about town issues. And I guess it's been gnawing at our craw for quite a while to talk about an issue that is front and center in national news these days, for those that care about it, which is a lot of people, of freedom of speech, constitutional rights, democracy, true democracy, and the press's responsibility to provide that freedom of speech to all of us. And that's so important specifically to this valuable resource called PEG TV. I've been so proud to be a member and a producer here at PEG TV for a lot of reasons. It's one of the most valuable community resources that we have. And one of the reasons for that is that what you're getting right now from me and from what you'll get from Jim is an unfiltered view, maybe our opinion backed up by facts, but in any case, it's unedited. Nobody's telling us what to say, nobody's screening what we say, nobody's filtering out what we say, and that is so important in a democracy. So without further ado, let me introduce Jim and let you know just a few things about us in government. I met Jim in the town government a long time ago. He was, like me, a transplant. I was a transplant from the city, which from years of growing up in the city. When I got out of the service, I decided Rutland Town would be where I wanted to live for the rest of my life. And Jim made that decision quite a while ago from Stockbridge, where he had served in public office there. Jim, what year was that? I mean, that was like ancient history.
It was actually over in Royalton, Don.
Okay.
And which is not too far from Stockbridge. But I went on the board of selectmen over there in 1975, and I had a year's break along the way. Went back on. I ended up serving a total of 12 years over there as a selectman. In addition to that, I was active on the fire department and rescue squad when I was physically able, and enjoyed that service to the real rural local communities. And we supported communities in adjacent to the town of Royalton. And that was very busy too. We ended up putting on a lot of miles in the course of a year for the number of patients we handled. But that's one of the things that's given in an area that's not too heavily populated.
Well, when did you enter into the Rutland Town system here? What year was that?
I was elected in Rutland Town to the select board in 2007.
Okay.
And I served 6 years.
Okay.
And
but you were on the Transportation Council
I was
as well?
on the Transportation Council before moving to Rutland Town for Proctor. And they insisted that I stay on the board of counselors even after I moved out of Proctor.
Well, that's got to say something about desirability.
So I said, don't you think you ought to give your own citizens an opportunity at this? No, we're being well served, and we're willing to go. So
not only that, Jim, but it's hard to find people to serve. And, you know, and you've been on the Board of Civil Authority for like almost forever. I mean, up until, well, just last term that you didn't get elected, but.
I did not get elected or re-elected to the board, and
Justice of the Peace,
yeah, it was a little bit of a shock, and then I got to thinking about it. I think it's best because here again, I have a hearing problem. It comes with older age, and those tax appeal meetings, boy, you need to be able to hear everything.
Well,
and it's probably best that it works out that way.
I've got the same hearing problem, Jim, and unfortunately, well, or fortunately, as the case may be, you know, mine came from a lot of loud blasts over in Vietnam, more than anything else. But the aides tend to work all right, but they have their problems of electronics and so forth. But it's pretty unique, and a matter of some pride, some great pride on both of our parts, that we've probably, as I think back between your positions, both, there were 2 or 3 different positions on the Transportation Council, and also on as an alternate for the Regional Commission. I believe you served as well. I think between Jim Hall and myself, from 1970, that's when my residency in the town started, and it was shortly after that, 72 or 3, that I became town moderator. When Sherwin-Williams retired. That's another story that I'd like to bring Fred Gallipo into sometime for posterity's sake. That between you and I, we have held more positions, more different positions, and continuous positions in the town of Rutland than any person that I can think of in my history in the town. Which says a lot for us, but it also says a lot for the town. It's consistency, and it's also historical perspective, because when you have that length of time in service, there's not too many things that you don't know just a little bit about, and some a lot about. And that's lost on a lot of people who don't know this, they don't know that, they don't know where town boundaries are. We have businesses in this town that have no clue that they're located in the town. They send their tax money into the city. I know that because I'm presently the tax collector in the town of Rutland, delinquent tax collector. I get people that have, and I have nice conversations with corporate management at all levels in all places around the country about Rutland town's geography and where we are and what it means and what the pride means to us. I'll give you a prime example because we're going to get into some controversial stuff here pretty quickly, whether anybody likes it or not. And that's the beauty of freedom of speech and what PEG TV provides. We're not going to be vulgar. We're not going to be upsetting. We will not demean people. We simply provide factual disagreement and an ideology that's different than a liberal ideology, because we're both conservatives. We don't make any any bones about the fact that we are. We don't hide it. We don't couch things in terms so that we can kind of be a little bit conservative, but a little bit no. We're of a conservative bent. I don't know where it comes from. Maybe it comes from our background, our upbringing, but we're both patriots. We both served our country. Oh, that's another thing that I failed to mention, and I should have in introducing Jim to you folks who don't know him. Jim, I'm going to get emotional on this one because I was just a lowly lieutenant. Well, I was I was an '02, so I made first lieutenant, but I decided not to make it a career, and so after my service in Vietnam, I decided I would, I would come back to civilian life. Jim, on the other hand, put a whole career of military service in, and when he retired with the rank of Sergeant Major. I don't know whether you know it or not, but Sergeant Major is the highest enlisted rank that one can achieve in the United States military. There's, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but I think there's 3 grades of Sergeant Major. There's Sergeant Major, plain, and then there's Command Sergeant Major, and then there's Sergeant Major of the Army.
Right.
And the Sergeant Major of the Army is akin to a 5-star general, really. That's the man that reports directly to the president, directly, and has no one else to report to but the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and the president. But Sergeant Major is the rank, and it is not only an honor, but it is another mark of incredible amount of experience in command, in discipline, in logistics, and on and on and on. I could give you 15 different categories of management that really qualified Jim to be a leader in government as well as a leader in the military. So anyways.
Just to give you an example of what they did toward the end of my career, Desert Storm was kicking off, and nobody knew where that was going to end up. So they had everybody that they could possibly think of fitted for the real world of why we're in the military. I ended up with a top secret clearance, and I had to go to briefings at least once a month, sometimes more often, as to where we stood on the battlefield.
Well, you know, it's amazing because as long as I've known Jim, I didn't realize that last point that he made. I didn't know that because my branch of service was military intelligence, at which later split into MI and then Army Security Agency, and I was in the Army Security branch of military intelligence, and my clearance was TSC, which I'm sure you know was top secret, with the C, which was crypto. A little bit of added intrigue to that particular, but those 2 security clearances that you had, secret, and mine TSC, those are clearances that members of Congress don't even have. That's why they couldn't, I mean, they have a SCIF that they can go in to see things that nobody else can see, but they don't have a top secret clearance for military information. And whatever, just, that's interesting. Well, it's interesting that, you know, that subject.
I'll tell you, you have to use your own program of discipline, self-discipline, when you go to those briefings, and you have to be careful about taking notes. It's kind of like executive sessions in local government.
Right.
You have to be really careful what you write down.
Well, you know, which brings up the subject of when we look at the news and we look at the political scene on the national front, and we look at Hillary Clinton, for instance, what she did with security information.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I saw people that were drummed out of the service with some pretty severe penalties just for dropping information on the floor or putting it in the wastebasket when it was not supposed to be there. It's a serious, serious matter. Now, there's also a discussion of whether something should be classified secret or top secret or just confidential. or for your eyes only, and then there's a whole mess of other different categories. But that's a separate issue. The real issue is if there's a penalty for it, then the penalty ought to be applied to everybody equally, and it wasn't applied to her. That's when politics started to come into this thing, and well, maybe it really wasn't a serious enough offense to destroy those servers and off of whatever. Anyways, I wanted to get into this Rutland Herald thing, Jim. I mean, we got 14. We got about half the time left. This thing goes by pretty quickly, so half an hour is a breeze right by. I've had a raging battle with the Rutland Herald for a long time, and I've pretty much kept it to them. I haven't brought it into this forum, but now I'm forced to because they have essentially cut my voice off, and that's what brings us to the serious discussion that we'll have here, because the same things happened to you, and this is probably one of the most serious issues that's a national issue that's brought right back down to a local community the size of Rutland Town and Rutland City in the Rutland region, and the Rutland Herald as a media, as a supposedly responsible journalistic media in the region. It's the paper of record for the whole of southern Vermont, really. There's the Bennington Banner, but then there's the Rutland Herald. And they have a responsibility, which they've been given by our government, and they're not fulfilling that responsibility. Unfortunately, there hasn't been any penalty given to them for not fulfilling that responsibility, which is why they can get away with doing what they're doing. Now, let me give you the example, and this is a very specific example. There's a whole mess of them that I could bring up, but I'll stick to this one because this one is the important one that apparently got me banished from the Rutland Herald. Isn't that something? Why? 40 years of government service in this community, from 1970s, early 1970s, 3 stints on the Board of Selectmen, 2 as chairman of the board, a stint in the legislature representing this community, and still, even in kind of semi-retirement, the delinquent tax collector bringing hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue into the town of Rutland. And the Rutland Herald chooses not to print my comments, my commentaries, and my views on subjects of disagreement with political decisions that are made in the region. And this is one. Now, the Herald wrote an editorial on October 8th in black and white. And they've done this continually, Jim. On their editorial page, their editor is responsible for writing the editorial. Now, their editor doesn't even do his job, because half the days of the week, you'll look up at the top and it says, reprinted from the Boston Globe, reprinted from the Post-Dispatch, reprinted from this, reprinted from that. They will grab any Trump-hating, Republican-hating, patriotic-hating editorial that they can grab from any source that they can grab it, so that they can sit on their dead ass and do nothing, because it's their job to write the editorials. And then they constantly laud the fact that it's a local paper, local paper, local. If it's a local paper, then what are you putting a Boston Globe's editorials for? Why? Because you can guarantee that those editorials will be dead on anti-Trump. The President of our United States, one of the most influential presidents, whether you like him and whether you like his personality or not, one of the most consequential and accomplished presidents that this country has ever had. And when the truth is known and if the truth is told, he will go down in history as that. Now, the Herald writes this editorial in black and white, and they're lauding the 85th celebration of National Newspaper Week. Oh, really? And they go on, we're very proud of our employees and the newspaper's long commitment to local readers. It takes a dedicated team to ensure that our readers with advertisers have access to quality, truthful journalism, I'll have to cough at that one, that represents the entire community. I have to really cough at that one. The entire community. If you read the Rutland Herald, you would think that 105% of the whole Rutland region was all blazing liberals. That's not true. Rutland County, amongst all of the 14 counties in the state of Vermont, is probably one of the most conservative counties in the state. Now, we have 3 senators, all of whom happen to be Republicans. Well, how is that represented in the Rutland Herald? 3 out of 3. Not 1, not 2, 3 out of 3. Republicans. They all got voted in the county. They're not represented by editorial opinion or commentary opinion in the paper. You can pick up that newspaper any day of the week and count on reading at least 1, if not 2, 3, 4, 5 letters to the editor, all slamming Trump, slamming Republicans. We're the nastiest, we're the most divisive, we're anti-this. Unbelievable, just lies. And they get away with lying in there, and of course the paper, they let them in. I write 1 letter, and I made a mistake, a factual mistake in it, and they castigated me. In the paper, the editor chose to correct me because I made a mistake. They don't do that kind of fact-checking on any of the liberals that write for their paper.
No.
If they did, they'd have to write a correction every single time it came in. Anyways, this editorial goes on. It's a fundamental principle. Newspapers are critical to democracy. Yes, they are critical to democracy, only if they give equal representation to dissenting opinions from theirs, or dissenting opinions from others that write in their paper, or dissenting opinions of facts from their journalists who are supposed to be investigative journalists but aren't. They're just toadies. Oh, they got mad because I said the word toady. Well, a toady is somebody that's in lockstep with one particular viewpoint, and that's what the journalists are. All they are is they're just sycophants. They're extension arm of the Democratic Party. That's what it is today. They call it mainstream journalism. It is not mainstream journalism anymore. They call it legacy media. It's not legacy media anymore. If you look at how many people listen to and how many people read this supposed legacy media, you'll find their subscriptions have gone down the tubes. Why? Because they can't be relied on to tell the truth. Which is why Fox on cable news has 2, 3, 4 times the listenership that any other cable news network has.
And they're not perfect.
And they're not perfect, but they have balance.
That's right.
You can look at the Fox network and you can see Democrats on there. I don't like what they say and I disagree with them, but they allow them on there so that there can be a discussion and a balance of factual information versus opinion and ideology. So they go on to say they're critical democracy because they serve as watchdogs. The Rutland Herald's never been a watchdog for anybody. There's a raging controversy in the city of Rutland, there has been now ever since the March election, over the appointment of the recreation director. The Rutland Herald has done no investigative reporting whatsoever and no reporting whatsoever concerning the issue of the non-appointment of the recreation director. It's been reported in the paper that supposedly the mayor did not appoint the recreation director because she lied to him about vetting employees in her department. The Rutland Herald never followed up with the mayor to ask the mayor, well, under your personnel policies, did you provide fair warning to the employee that she had breached, that she had made an error? Did you write her up to put a note in the file? Or did you give her a chance to correct her deficiency as far as an evaluation? No. From an HR perspective, from a personnel policy perspective, there was no procedure followed whatsoever other than him deciding on his own that he thought she had lied to him, so he just plain fired her. Never gave her a warning, never wrote her up. She doesn't have a letter in her file saying, this is, whatever. And where are the other letters of evaluation in her file? So anyways, there's a whole mess of other issues involving the city and or the town that they don't bother doing any investigative reporting on. They never do a follow-up or anything else. Ensure our public officials answer to the people they serve. Well, the people they serve are not only Democrats, the people they serve are Republicans too. And this is another thing that's been forgotten in our government today. You and I have been elected to representative positions for, well over 40 years. Mm-hmm. And I don't think either one of us have ever asked anybody that came in front of us as a board member or as a transportation agency or as a BCA member or as a tax collector or as a moderator, and we asked them whether they were a Democrat or a Republican. We didn't.
And one of the most important positions is those tax appeal hearings that we have.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's getting right down to the nitty-gritty of government.
That's right. That's right. And when you get elected, you run as a party member. But once you're elected to represent everybody equally and
Right.
fairly. And I try to do that. I hope I'm successful. I don't think I've ever been disrespectful to one side or another because of their party. I might have been a little bit disrespectful because of their own personality, but not because of their party.
Well, we're getting down near the end here, but I've got a couple of things I want to point out. That free speech is not only applies to the Herald, but it also applies to us. And in that regard, as long as free speech applies to every citizen, duly placed, we ought to have the same opportunity to get things in print that the Herald has. We ought to have that right, but we don't.
No, we don't.
We
and,
don't.
And everybody knows it. How many? I've had three letters, 4 letters, 5 letters refuse to be printed. They don't give me any reasons why they don't print them. They're not disrespectful. They're not vulgar. I wrote this reply. I want to get this in before we end. Your outrageous hypocrisy in today's editorial is beyond the pale. The statement that you print many of your critics on these pages is a bald-faced lie, and you know it. I dare say that I have been one of your most vocal critics, as well as an opponent of city decisions that you steadfastly support on these pages. How can you openly on these pages lie while sitting on well-written, error-free, and otherwise, according to your community standards, refuse to print them is not only disingenuous, but a clear violation of your own stated policies. It truly baffles me how you can continue to exist while violating every journalistic standard and printing this one-sided rag that ignores clearly at least 1/2 of your potential readership. Based on your non-attention to my last submission, I must conclude that you clearly have made the decision not to ever print my submissions, and I will proceed accordingly through whatever legal means I have. And this is one of them. You cannot continue to use your media privilege to deceive your readers while clearly denying the conservatives in our community a fair voice on your pages. Do you not see with your own eyes what is going on in our country? Your jig is clearly up. You liberals have lost your way. Your paper is on the fringe of existence. I guess we've run out of time, Jim.
I think so.
I think we got to do another one of these.
Back in,
'Cause, we're at zero, so we
we're off
got to
the-
just say, we'll say goodbye, and we'll definitely continue this conversation. You can't get it from better sources because we've been sitting where the action is for 40 years, and as old as we are, not much is lost up in the old gray matter.
just my
Thank you,
head.
Jim. It's been a
You bet,
pleasure.
Don. Thank you for getting me on here.
Well, we're not done yet. And thanks to PEG TV.